Welcome to lesson 2 in unit 3, combining like terms with negatives. So yesterday we classified all of our polynomials using the words mono, bi, and tri. Today we're going to be combining like terms and doing the same, but these problems will have minus signs, which will make our numbers negative when doing the math. So I can identify and combine like terms with negatives. So let's take a look at the first example. Just like I did yesterday, we use shapes to indicate what terms are alike and not alike. So squares are used around the 3x and the 2x in order to indicate that they are like terms. Again, notice that the square, that when it goes around the 2x, it also takes the minus sign with that 2, so that now we know we're subtracting the 3 and the 2. If you don't take the sign in front of the number, you're not going to know what operation to do. Then I put circles around the 5y and the 8y, again, taking the signs with those numbers, because if the signs are different, I'm going to have to subtract, where if the signs are the same, I will have to add. So make sure, again, that you circle or use your shapes with the signs that are in front of those coefficients, in front of those letters. So let's try some. Again, let's just do evens. So 2, 4, and 6, so we can save the odds for class. So the example says, simplify each expression. So I look and I see that these both have y's. So I'm going to use the same shape. I'm going to use squares here. So I'm going to put a box around my minus 3y and then a box around my minus 4y. I look inside each of those boxes and I have a minus 3 and a minus 4. Same, add, different, subtract. My signs are the same, I add. 3 and 4 make 7. When the signs are the same, I add and keep the sign, so I now have a negative 7y. You might remember from the last unit, or 2 units ago, that we changed our subtraction problems to addition problems. So some of you might take the extra step and rewrite this as negative 3y plus negative 4y. Either way, the signs are the same. They're both negatives, and you still will end up adding them and getting negative 7y. So instead of taking the extra step and changing them to addition problems when they're subtraction, by putting the shapes, you could just look now inside those shapes and see if the signs are the same or different. Take a look at number 4. I skimmed through the problem. I have a 10s and a minus 5s. My 10 is positive and my 5 has a minus. Signs are different. I subtract. I get 5s. Take the sign of the higher number. It stays positive because 10 is higher than 5 and it's positive. 4t minus 2t. Again, taking those signs. I look in those boxes. I have a plus 4 and a minus 2. Signs are different. I subtract. 4 take away 2 is 2. Don't forget your t. And I take the sign of the bigger number. 4 is bigger than 2 and it's positive, so now I'm going to have a plus in between my values. So in order to know what sign is going to go in between your terms, you need to know to take the sign of the higher number because we're adding and subtracting. Number 6, 7x and a plus 3x. Both are positives. Even though the 7 doesn't have a plus sign, we know it's positive because when we have a number without a sign, we know it's a positive value. So signs are the same. I add 7 plus 3 is 10, and I put an x. The minus 9 just drops down. That's my constant, and there's nothing I can combine with it. Notice that when I bring the 9 down, I bring the sign down in front of that 9. So because these are all adding and subtracting, you're using your same add, different subtract rules that you learned in Unit 1. I told you those rules weren't going away. Now let's look at the try these. Again, I'm going to do evens. So I'm going to do 8, 10, and 12. So looking at number 8, I skim through the problem. I have a 6x and a minus 9x. My 6 is positive. My 9 has a minus. Signs are different. I subtract. 9 take away 6 is 3. Those were my x's. I take the sign of the bigger number. 9's bigger than 6, and it has a minus, so it's a minus 3x. I now do my y's, a plus 8y and a minus 2y. 8 is positive, 2 has a minus, signs are different. I subtract. 8 take away 2 is 6. Those were my y's. I keep the sign of the bigger number. 8's bigger than 2, so this is a positive 6y. So a plus is now going to separate those. Remember, addition's commutative, so some of you might do the y's first and get 6y and then get a negative 3x, so it would be 6y minus 3x. Those are exactly the same. Just make sure that 3x still has that minus or negative. So as we progress through this unit, your minuses will be your negatives and your negatives are minuses. So if you get a negative answer, it becomes your minus sign. Okay, so you want to get used to that. It's kind of a transition there. Number 10, I have an 8x, a plus positive x, which again has an invisible coefficient of 1. Both are positives. Signs are the same. I add and keep the sign. I get 9x. Now let's do our positive 9y and our minus 6y here. Signs are different. I subtract. 9 take away 6 is 3. Those were my y's. Keep the sign of the bigger number. It's a positive 3y. Now my constants, I have a minus 4 and a minus 3. You use a triangle if you want. You use whatever shapes you want. If I look inside my triangles, my minus 4, my minus 3, signs are the same. I add. 4 and 3 make 7. And then since the signs are the same, we add and keep the sign. So it is a minus 7. So if we actually went through and changed all the subtraction to addition, it can get a little messy. So you want to use those shapes to help you indicate whether the signs are the same or different. And then number 12, we actually have decimals here, which we did use a calculator for. So if you need to, you can use your calculator to help you add and subtract when necessary. So I have 6.2y and a plus y, which again has that invisible coefficient of 1. So if you need to, you can do 6.2 plus 1 in the calculator. 6.2 plus 1 gives you 7.2. Don't forget the y. Okay, so you could do the coefficients and the math with the coefficients in the calculator, but you have to remember to put the letter or variable that is attached to those coefficients. And then my 5.6x, there's nothing to combine it with, so it stays as a minus 5.6x. Some of you might write minus 5.6x, and then it's a positive 7.2y, so you might have it this way. So again, if it's multiple choice, you need to recognize that you could move the terms around as long as the sign travels with the term. You are now going to do lesson 2 classwork homework problems in the Google form. So I did select a few of these from page 74. Make sure you pay attention to the signs and use your calculator where needed. Same, add, different, subtract, draw your shapes neatly, because if you draw them and you cross over the minus sign, you might think it's a plus sign. So be very careful when drawing your shapes.